Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who's currently wearing a mask that's like a hybrid of like Vince, Brian, Roman, Letty. It's like a beautiful mask, but it's like a hybrid of every Fast and Furious character ever. It's Joey Lewandowski.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me. Do people know, is it movies, films, and flicks lore, the face you make before the episode starts?
I don't know what is the what face.
It's just like a running through the mental Rolodex of all the things you could possibly say to open the episode. Action.
I guess everyone sees that since we've been recording.
But to the listeners now.
No, I don't like doing video. So if you're listening, if you've been listening for a long time, I don't like doing intros. I don't like writing intros. I'll think of them a couple minutes before we get in. And I guess I just throw my head backwards and I wait for about 5 seconds and then I'm like, "Hello and welcome to Movies, Films and Flicks." And then
I
we
wouldn't
jump
say
right
waiting.
into it.
I don't think it's passive. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. I think it's an active, like you are
Oh yeah.
deciding.
It's right up to the moment
Yeah.
and then it happens.
Hmm.
God, I whenever I try to write them, I just don't have fun with that. And I think if you're doing podcasting, you got to stay sharp. So I like running through the Hoffmeyer Rolodex to see what works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but that's podcasting.
It was good tonight.
Yeah. I love your mask though.
Thank you. I like yours. Oh, you're not wearing one. Sorry.
Hey. So I had never heard of this film that
Yeah.
you recommend. Joey sent me a huge list. We're working through a beautiful list and we're working through it.
Thank
And one of
you.
the movies is See You Up There, directed by Albert Dupontel, who he's the fire extinguisher dude from Irreversible. That's how I knew him. And so I didn't know much about his career. I didn't know much about his directing career. I watched this film, bought the film. I didn't watch it. I just bought it, watched it, dug it. Then I rented Bye Bye Morons, and then I started looking through his entire career. Then I just started thinking about French cinema in general, and I've really enjoyed the preparation for this. It's
Cool.
never felt like the greatest thing about this episode, Joey, and you recommended is what I love most about MFF is when I learn things. Like
Yep.
I don't
Hmm.
want to just come on and talk about a movie, and I I, I think I've learned a lot about Albert Dupontel's career, his filmmaking, his influences, and it's been a fun journey. So thank you, Joey.
Well, you're welcome. This is a movie that I saw at Fantastic Fest 2017. I'm trying to talk about it a little bit later, and I haven't seen it since then. And it's been in my head. I'm like, ooh, I loved it then, and I don't remember. Like, I remember World War One. I remember sort of like love story. I remember like sad French, whatever. But I didn't remember like all the connective tissue. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna be bad. Like, it's not the kind of movie where I'd be like, oh, I wish that I didn't recommend this, or wish I didn't rewatch this, whatever. But I was just like, let me put this on the list because also the list that I made is like some of my favorite movies that don't fit on Too Fast, Too Forever, or whatever. Even though I can, we can talk about whatever there. But it's also like things that are like a little bit more obscure, a little bit whatever, to try to encourage you to find something that that's something I've only seen once forever ago that I'd never heard of or whatever before. And this is one that I sort of like many on the list. I wanted to watch again and I was like worried. I was worried because I didn't remember a lot, and it was such like a nice, pleasant memory in my head of like what the experience was watching the first time. And I'm like, I hope that it lives up to it again. And I will say that I did not like it as much, but I still really, really, really liked it. I think it's great. And I'm glad that I rewatched it because like it doesn't hold this like pristine place in my head anymore, but it's a movie that I can more confidently recommend. Like, oh no, it is good. You should watch it. Just don't expect maybe necessarily a transcendent, life-changing experience. Although, maybe, because that's a great movie.
I mean, what this movie does need is a theatrical experience. It's big, it's sweeping, there's crane shots everywhere. Just the beautiful visuals, the production design, just the way that the color palette of this film, the performances. It's a movie that deserves to be watched on a big screen with a lot of people. So I do think something maybe does get lost a little bit watching from home. But irregardless, the fun thing about this, once again, is learning about Albert Dupontel's career. I watched Bye Bye Morons,
Hmm.
which made me very happy. Which is I tried to explain Bye Bye Morons to my wife, and she's like, "Is that for real? Is that the plot of that movie?" I'm like, "Yes, that's what happened." Because I started realizing, throughout his career, Albert Dupontel, like, he has so many different themes. I mean, there's a lot of suicide. There's a
Mm.
lot of taboo subjects that he covers, and in this movie, 9 Month Stretch, there's a judge and she's really strict, but then she gets pregnant by a criminal wanted for murder. So it's called 9 Month Stretch.
Okay.
There's a movie called Second Tour where this guy has been demoted to just covering soccer matches, but then he has to follow a presidential campaign. But then he learns that the guy sucks. And so he does a huge investigation into him. There's a movie called Les Villains So it's this bank robber, but then he ends up with his mom in her house and he's being chased by villains. But then there's this shady land developer that's trying to bulldoze the area so that they can make it into a nice banking district. And so it's a criminal hating on kind of gentrification and the destruction of homes of like lower, let's see, lower class homes to make a banking district. There's locked out. This is great. The story of a glue sniffing homeless person who stumbles upon a policeman committing suicide again, and decides to put his abandoned uniform to good use. And at first he's like, yeah, this is great. And then, but also he actually ends up tracking down the kidnapped child of a former porn star whose picture he had fallen in love with. There's a movie about the creator, which sounds really funny, where he's blasted drunk and he commits to a play, but then he goes and gets sober. And then when he comes back, he realizes he has to write a play. So I thought that was interesting. And then the movie that popped him off big time, which put him on the radar of Gaspar Noé, Terry Jones, Terry Gilliam, the whole Monty Python crew. Robin Williams has a long speech about him, and you can find on YouTube. But it's about this 30-year-old orphan who finds his life's official version hard to swallow. So then, like, he's like, no, my parents didn't dump me in a trash can. So he goes out and finds a mafia plot, and he beats some people up, and there's some death and a lot of violence against women. And it's a really odd take. And he funded that because did a stand-up comedy routine. Before that, he was a doctor, and he made enough money on Bernie and his other films that he self-funds. He doesn't have to rely on the government for money because it's good, because he kind of seems to hate the government. And the movie we're talking today, he said that this movie today is where's this quote I have from him? He said that oh gosh, I have it around here. Oh, see what there is, a pamphlet against the modern world. So that's the movie that we're talking about today.
Okay. I think this is going to overgeneralize in a very strong way, but I feel like all of those things you said are all like starkly different. Like there's themes and everything, but like each theme is not necessarily connected directly with another you said or whatever. But there is something that feels inherently French about all of them.
Oh yeah, wildly French.
And like there's such French, like the editing and the look, like, so much of this like looks and feels French in a way that like isn't necessarily like other movies I've seen, but just sort of like the feel of like, oh, this reminds me of Amelie, or this reminds me of that, or whatever, right? Like there's all these different like little moments in these movies that remind of a certain thing. And I don't know that there is like, is there the equivalent of like an American movie? Like maybe, but probably not. Like it feels like there's something that's just so small, but not small, and not small in a derogatory way, but just small in a like close knit, has a feel as a country, an auteur kind of thing, where it's like, this is French. This feels French. This looks French. This, invokes Frenchness, and it's cool. I mean, again, to generalize, again, overgeneralize, probably an incorrect way. French movies, at least what I've seen, usually pretty good, or at least worth seeing. Maybe not good, but like interesting.
I mean, Coralie Forgeot was just talking about her film The Substance, and she shot it in France. And she said a big reason why she was able to make her film. I mean, if you watch a movie where everyone has united around someone's vision, it's The Substance. And she said she wanted to make it in France because everyone who works, she said the people that she works with in France, the crew, the grip, the electrics, all that, they love cinema. And so they're making cinema. So the crew, when they worked on this, like, yes, we're all in. We are here for your vision. We will make your vision happen. Whereas, you work on something in the States, whether it's a Hallmark Christmas movie. I've been on some terrible commercials, some terrible movies, just people sitting on stuff, not giving a shit. And so I think they love the craft. They love the idea of it. And if you think about their horror movies, and Infested, it's about spiders, but it has a really interesting political stance. Under Paris is a shark movie that makes fun of the cleaning up of the Seine River. They take a political angle to most of their horror films, and it's been a fun journey learning more about them. Because when was your first and also Albert Dupontel says he's not going to make a movie in the United States because he can't control it. So when he makes movies in France, he can control it. He has a crew, they know how he works, and he can go out making movies. And he also acts in a lot of films. There's a movie that came out in 2010 starring Jean Dujardin, and he plays Jean Dujardin's cancer. So there's like, they're pretty interesting ideas out there. But yeah, it's what was I have a question though. What was your first experience with French cinema?
Ooh,
When
I,
did
the
Joey
the
I
first
think
one
we
that I
all have the same.
remember,
I think we all maybe the same era. I want to see what you say though.
I don't know. I came to movies late. Like I came like I basically watched very few before I went to college. Then in college, I just sort of like overdosed on all of them. I remember one of the first ones that I remember seeing was High Tension.
Oh, yeah. Alejandra. So you found the French New Wave horror, the new extreme horror.
That was programmed as part of like a three-movie Halloween triple feature or whatever that my school's like TV station, like before I joined the TV station, they put on like a triple feature, and that was one of them. So I remember that. Amelie was definitely early. I remember seeing, is Persepolis French or is Persepolis not French? Persepolis, is that like Middle Eastern? Do you know Persepolis?
Looking right now, the movie, yeah, French adult animated
I remember
biographical
seeing
film.
that in theaters. That was when I was just like, oh, let me just go see artsy things. What did you think was going to be the first?
Okay, I guess I'm older than you, and so for me, it was when I was in college, but it was Brotherhood of the Wolf, and it
I haven't seen
was
that.
whoa, Mark Dacascos. It's wonderful. Monica Bellucci, great cast. Vincent Cassel, and it was that, and then it was Amelie because in the
Hmm.
states Amelie exploded, so you kind of had to see Amelie, and then once you had watched the second Matrix movie and you had watched Brotherhood of Wolf, you heard about Irreversible, so like, well, I guess I got to go see Irreversible, and I think it's sort of, and then when you get, I didn't catch these immediately, but then you knew Martyrs came out, the Frontiers came out. I watched High Tension, Alejandro Aja. Like you had to
Hmm.
watch that. And I think that just carried on from there. And then eventually, when I became more of a cinephile, that's when you catch 400 Blows. That's when you catch Breathless. And
Right.
I started thinking about something where the majority of my movie viewing into like other cultures and watching other countries' films are action cinema. So Japan was Kurosawa, Seven Samurai. I rented that from Netflix. For me in South Korea, it was Old Boy. There's a movie called Tagachi, The Host. I think Japan had Battle Royale as well. So I think for me, when you go to other countries as well, it's, Tony Jaa's rise and other actors. I led City of God was Brazil, so I went to Crime for Brazil. So I think for me, action cinema opened up my world to other countries' cinema because growing up, I didn't really have proper internet till I was in my 20s. And so I relied on maybe Premiere Magazine. I didn't really have any cinephile friends. I worked in a theater, but I mean, if Amelie came to our theater, it went to the art house theaters. It didn't come to our theaters. And I didn't really have any cool people being like, Mark, man, check out Breathless, bro. You'll never watch Pulp Fiction the same way
Right.
again. I'm like, oh, and so I didn't have that. And so that's when my introduction was. Now in the 90s, I knew like Luc Besson, like I knew Jean Reno was French. I knew in Braveheart, Sophie Marceau and The World's Not Enough was like one of the most, I was like, she's like one of the most beautiful women ever. And she was French. So I think I knew a lot about French actors who were just Gerard Depardieu, My Father the Hero, and stuff like that. That's how
Hmm.
I knew about French actors. But it wasn't until about 2001 when I started watching French cinema. And I had watched him in Irreversible, but I had no idea about Albert Dupontel's career up until we watched this film, and I loved it. It was
I
great.
mean, the thing with like, and I texted you about this morning as like as we were sort of kicking around some ideas of like what else to talk about this episode. But there's something very weird. Like, have you done the film festival thing before? I would assume that you have. But have you gone to like a film festival where you watch like four or five things a day for like a week?
No, I haven't. I've never done that.
So there's a very weird thing about it where like it's a very insane way to watch movies. Like, I mean, I'm sure that you have watched, I mean, I know that you've watched because I know the research you've done for things where it's like all I'm doing for 12 hours a day or whatever for like 3 months is like watching every episode of this TV show that nobody's ever
oh,
heard of to like count the number of like like whatever, like some like whatever. People know
yeah,
what you do.
yeah, yeah.
But it's a very strange thing to be like, okay, from like 11 a.m. to like 1 a.m., I am in the theater more or less, and I'm watching movies. I'm watching five a day for 8 days. And so Fantastic Fest was, I loved it. And it was very, like, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's mostly
Yeah,
sort of
awesome.
genre, horror, sci-fi, that kind of stuff. And then also would get sort of prestige things. They also champion like international cinema. I went probably 4 or 5 years in a row, and then I moved away from Austin and I stopped flying back for it. And also, it changed and morphed and became a different thing. But I loved it when I went. And so the way that you would like research it is like they would release the films that they would be showing, and you would pick the ones you're like, oh, these all sound great. I know that I want to see these. Oh, I didn't know that director I love has a new movie coming out. Like, I want to see that. But then when the schedule would come out, you would figure out when things were playing, be like, well, there's actually kind of nothing I want to see at this time. Which of these options do I want to see? And I think that's what work came because I didn't know Albert Dupontel. I'd never heard of this. I don't have a particular affection toward French. I mean, I like French, like we were just talking about that, but like it's not like I'm like, oh, I need to see everything French. And so I think I just like I'm like, oh, this sounds good. Whatever, I'll give it a shot. And then I remember seeing it with one of my friends who I made at the film festival. We're like, oh my God, that's amazing. But there's a there's a strange thing where it's like, I just need to see a movie at this time. And it's not like I was drawn to this for any number of reasons other than like, oh, it sounds interesting. But the other thing that's weird about the film festival thing, especially something like Fantastic Fest, which sort of has like a bent toward a thing, which is generally, broadly speaking, horror, is when something is not horror, like this is not horror. There are, sad and strong and dramatic elements in it, but it's not horror in any way, really. It stands out for better or worse because it feels different from what you're seeing. Like bouncing from like, mom, like that year, I will actually bring this up now.
17.
At Fantastic Fest that year, I saw Revenge. Speaking of Coralie Plagiat,
Yes,
I
yeah.
saw this one. I saw Bodied, Mom and Dad, Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Endless, The Death of Stalin, Bad Genius,
The Death of
Blade of the
Stalin.
Immortal.
That's a great
It was
group
a
of films.
crazy, really good year, but it's like so much of this is sort of like weird sci-fi, horror, whatever. I mean, Death of Stalin was a secret screening, that was like a different thing, but it's just like this feels different from a lot of that stuff, and I'm just like, oh, like this is it sort of was like a breath of fresh air. I think it's really good, but like I think it was even further amplified by being surrounded by similar types of stuff that, helps it stand out a little bit.
No, I totally agree. It's nice to have. I think sometimes when you're watching all these tough, like, sometimes when I go through a lot of movies and then I just need to unwind, I put something else on and it just is so against what I was just watching. It's so nice and it makes me really happy. So I think it's almost counter programming sometimes. You're
Yeah.
not, and listen, as much as I love heavy sci-fi, Revenge is great, but when you watch five of those in a day, it weighs on you. So if you can finish that up with a see you up there, you kind of, even though there's suicide in this movie, there's mass murder, there's a great villain, there's money laundering, there's embezzlement. It's still a pleasant enough film, and it's kind of, and not kind of, it is gorgeous to look at. So yeah, I think it would be a nice break. And also, are these, for me, sometimes I'll go watch a film in a packed theater. I remember I watched Dawn of the Dead 2004, and the screening was so great. I will forever love that movie beyond anything. I saw Wonder Woman in a packed theater in San Francisco, and it was so electric. It's one of my favorite experiences ever. I think a good cinematic experience can influence how much you love the movie later on because you remember it. It's not just like you're watching at home at 5 a.m. in the morning while working out for a podcast.
Right. I remember that same year when I saw Revenge at Fantastic Fest. It was in the packed theater, and I remember being because like every film festival is largely in a packed theater, and it's like what's also special about it, like whichever one you go to. And I've only gone to Fantastic Fest and a little bit of South by. I did South by for like a year and a little bit of change. But I haven't gone to like TIFF, I haven't gone to Sundance, I haven't gone to like bigger, more prestigious sort of whatever. But like what's cool is that like everybody wants to be there as opposed to like you go to your AMC or whatever and just like people are on their phones or talking or whatever. And it's just
Yeah,
like this is
yeah.
annoying. Like why'd you spend the money? But everybody there wants to be there. Everybody like cares about it. Everybody's there for the thing, right? And I remember when Revenge was playing and I was just like, this movie is so good. I don't, but like I couldn't tell if people were into it the same way I did. And then in another theater, someone passed out and they paused the movie, which was like has rarely happened. And I was next to a different friend. I was just like, "Is this movie like really, really good?" He's like, "Yeah, man." And like we were like, it's like, oh, like we were so excited, but like we almost needed that break. It was just like, oh, we need to talk about like how good this is. But yeah, that same year, where it's just like you're seeing things. Also, like what's cool about the film festival, if you're a film snob, and I feel like there's the movie films and flicks, and this is probably a film, maybe a little bit of a movie, but also a film, whatever. But if you're a film snob, there's something exciting. Where you're like, I just saw a thing that's amazing, and like nobody gets to see it for 9 months, right? Like it's just like there's something that like you're going to love this whenever you get to see it, and it's not going to be out for months. So keep an eye out for Revenge whenever you get to see it, or keep an eye out for See You Up There when like it eventually makes its way to America or whatever, right? Like there's something cool about the communal experience of people who really want to be there, seeing something curated and great that is not there to make money, but just because like someone deemed it like worthy of showing, being there with people who have similar tastes and similar passion for movies, and then to be good and moved or touched by it, it's just like it's the best.
the hyper exclusivity of it, and just yeah, no, like being ahead of everybody. It's kind of nice. Yeah, and then you also just love movies, and you're with other movie lovers. It's yeah, you don't have someone on their phone eating nachos really loudly and
Yeah.
then just leaving.
Yeah.
But this
It's
film,
crazy.
see, I'm glad we have like, and also too, I just want to before we jump in to see you up there because there's a lot to talk about. I do think that since 2017, when this movie has come out, I mean, French cinema, I think, I mean, it's blowing up maybe since 2015, 2016, and maybe it's because of just the amount of streaming that we have now and ways to watch movie. Because Terry Gilliam once said, "The worst film in English will travel further than the best film in French," and
Sure.
I think that's true. But nowadays, we have stuff like Julia Ducournau's Raw and Titan.
Hmm.
Titan won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. Coraline is making Revenge and Substance. Celine Sciamma's Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Petite Maman. You know how much I love those movies.
Little Mom.
I mean, Little Mom. I mean, Leah Seydoux is just crushing it. She's in a movie called France that just is like beguiling, and I love it. And The Beast just came out. She made a name in Blue is the Warmest Color. Madge just came out. The Count of Monte Cristo is incredible. Red Rooms, What the Untouchables did well. Anatomy of a Fall. There's a lot of really cool French cinema coming out. And I just watched one about a young kid who's the step this lady marries a dude and he has a step kid and they have like a fling, and it was on a bunch of top 10 lists. It's a Janice film. I forget the name of it though. Just watch that. But it's been fun watching French cinema. I think it's Mayhem's actually kind of crazy. Under Paris is really good. But I think if I'm thinking about a country now that has just churning out great stuff, I think it's France. Like Mads is one of my favorite films of 2010. That was in my top 10. The Beast was in my top 10. France was in my top 10. Portrait of a Lady was in my top 10. Substance like Revenge was in my top 10. Raw and Titan were in my top 10. Petite Manan, my mom were in my top 10. Red Rooms, Little Mom, I love that so much. Anatomy of Fall. So it's fun watching the way that they treat cinema as opposed to over here in the States. And there's different reasons for that. I mean, there's World War II and the studio system and how much funding we have for films. But yeah, I don't know. It was
I
fun
think
to
the only
watch.
other country that I can think of that is like as reliably consistent in terms of like, well, there's also before I name the country, let's take a step back. It's like we're saying all this stuff about good French stuff because the best stuff is making its way to us.
Yeah, that's
The
true. We're
same
not
way that I
getting
think it's like, oh my God, movies from the 40s and 50s are so good. It's like, well, no, like
we're
they
watching the
are, but
best.
also like you're not seeing the direct that was in theaters that has been forgotten, right? Like you're seeing the stuff that survived for 70 or 80 years. Like to see a French movie, like now you have more access, but to be like, oh, Mark, there's this movie you got to see or whatever, it still comes pre-vetted or it's still like known or reported on or whatever. And there's still like a layer of amplification there. So I still think like we think other countries are good, but like French people might just be like, our movies suck. Like American movies are good, you know, or
They
whatever,
get
right?
more mainstream.
But I think
Yeah.
that's like whenever you are like going outside of like whatever you're in to like really find things that like come from another place or a different, like a new genre. Like if you've never seen any horror movie, you'd be like, oh my God, horror movies are great. It's like, well, actually, most of them are like real bad. But like, you know, if you only cherry pick the best ones, anything can be good. But with all that said, French movies are great. I also think the other country that I was going to say that I think is like consistently, reliably in terms of like what makes its way to us, usually pretty good, is Japan.
Yeah, Japan, South Korea is doing really Park Chan Wook,
Yes.
young like there's several and I mean they make their way here, then we learn about them, then we watch them. And
Yep.
so it's I mean also the South Koreans just love zombies, so I'm just going to watch anything they put out cuz it's just zombies.
Right.
But also I want to give a quick shout to what Quentin Dupo, like he did a film called Mandibles.
That guy makes like 12 movies a year.
Mandibles, and he released a film last year called Yannick on Mubi that gave me endless delight. But between rubber, deerskin, mandibles, smoking causes coughing, I love that guy so much. And also, I'm just naming French films, but Close is really good as well. So even though I guess we're getting some of the best, it's still we're getting the best, and because the world we live in, of course, Corsage is really good too. But because the world we're living in, we can watch them now. I don't
Right.
have to. I get the screeners, and at the end of the year, I get some cool screeners, or I can watch them on Netflix. I can watch them on Hulu. I can watch them on Mubi. I can watch them on Criterion. It's Shutter. It's
Well, I think
just
that's also something that like bummed me out about film festivals, but also like is good because like there was pre-COVID, um, pre-real rise of the streamer. There was a real disconnect. Like there was a thing like you have to go to the movies, you have to go to film festivals because like you might not see stuff for a while, if ever. And then film festivals, especially Fantastic Fest toward the end of where I was going. Again, this is like that's my basis for like knowledge and reference. there would be stuff that's like, oh, well, like Netflix is like sponsoring or whatever, and so they're bringing three movies that are going to be on Netflix in the next like 6 weeks. But you could see them first. I'm like, I don't want to see them first. Like, I'm gonna wait. Like, I'd rather see something here that I can't see for 6 months. But then that felt to come more and more. And then here in like regular theaters, not film festivals, you're like, you miss a movie. You're like, oh, I missed the movie. It was only in theaters 2 weekends, and then 2 weeks later, it's like on demand. It's just like, oh, so like it's cool. The access is great, but it also feels like it trivializes or lessens the theater experience in a way. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a changing thing, a different thing. The good, what you're saying is that you just have access to it. Like you can just see stuff. It's not like it's hard or impossible to find stuff. It's usually like after a couple of months, you'll probably be able to see it. You might have to pay like $20 to see it or whatever, or you might have to like import a region-free Blu-ray or whatever, but like it's out there somewhere. As opposed to like, oh, I saw this movie at a film festival 10 years ago. It never got sold. You can't watch it.
Uh, and one thing too that's yeah, no, so many. Like, remember when Kill came out a couple years at TIFF, and I had to wait a whole year to watch it? That was that was a bummer.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "You got to watch Kill." But I think one thing that also opened up my world is I became a part of a Georgia Film Critics, and I started writing for websites. So then I started getting screeners, and so I don't know if I would have watched that awesome movie Happening that was released in 2021 if I hadn't been a part of that. So I think the general populace probably has no idea about a lot of these, but at least cinephiles can get a hold of them
Yeah.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that also opened up. I kind of feel like, oh, well, I'm watching more of them, but I also think more of them are being sent to me. And I've enjoyed that. And I think it's made me a better critic. It's made me better at like watching movies because you're just, I don't know, the door's been open to so much more cool movies. And also, I mean, if you think about digital, back in the day, it was film. You shoot on film, you put it in a blockbuster. Nowadays, you shoot something cool, it can be up on IFC, or IFC can do it, or Kino Lorber can distribute it, or what other cool brands are there? Neon, A24. It's just, I feel like the world that whenever people complain about cinema and say things like, oh, it's not like it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty great right now because there's, it's the doors have been open for so many artists. And so maybe people are complaining about the quality, but I think we're just by sheer numbers, we're getting more films, great films, because more films are being made and more people have a voice. And so I've really enjoyed that. And for me at least, I kind of feel like France, the movies I'm getting, the good movies I'm getting from France, I'm not in the cinema every day, I've really enjoyed. And it's yeah, and I guess so I'm gonna tell you about Bye Bye Morons. This
Okay.
movie won the Caesar Award, which is Best Picture in France. Albert Dupontel won. Virginia F.S. in it, otherwise, aka Benedetta, the farting nun in Paul Verhoeven's movie, which I love a tremendous
Mm-hmm.
amount. It's about this guy who, oh, so there's this woman who's a hairdresser. She learns that by inhaling so many fumes for so many years, she's going to die soon.
Okay.
And she wants to find her kid that she gave up when she was 15. And so she's going through all the bureaucracy who won't help her. And she meets this guy. Albert Dupontel plays a character who's fired from his job, and he has to train all these young kids who are not as good as him, but he's depressed, so he's trying to kill himself. So he records a video where he's going to murder himself. He tries to kill himself, but it goes awry, and it shoots the guy that Virginia F is talking to. And then they team up because he is a tech guy. And so the two of them go on a mission, but then they find a blind guy who got hit in the head by the government, and he's working in a dark room with personal records. And then they go on this mission to find her son. Even though she's dying, he wants to die, and there's a blind guy. That's the movie.
I mean, it sounds insane. It sounds also, but like there's something like this movie's also kind of insane, but it's also sort of straightforward, right? Like if you describe what
It's
this is,
very straightforward, right?
it's a World War I movie where, but like what's nice and also a little like maybe too clean about it is that everyone is so tightly woven together, but it's also like that's what kind of gives it the emotional payoff. It's like that's just what you're getting, right? Like it's a family story, but there is something like as soon as you said to me he has a movie called Bye Bye Morons, I was like, well, okay, I'm sold by the title alone, and then the description of it sounds crazy too. Is it like how does it compare in terms of your taste, in terms of what you know about my taste to this movie?
So
Because I would also say like this movie does not feel like it should be a movie that I would like like not that I like don't like this kind of movie, but it's not like really necessarily in my wheelhouse.
I mean, the thing is, I think if you're an American and you're hypersensitive, you're not going to like Bye Bye Morons. This guy Albert Dupontel is pushing buttons. I think See You Up There might be his safest film that he's ever made.
Okay.
So Bye Bye Morons, there's a guy, an actor whose his blindness is played for laughs. There's a kid who's kind of a stalker. There's suicide as a theme. There's death as a theme. There's the 15-year-old character. She got pregnant by a 20-year-old jockey, but she's like, I was 15, I looked 20. He was 20 and looked 15. And then he got arrested for statutory rape, and then he took off. Like, it's a movie
Okay.
where,
Mm-hmm.
it, uh, yeah, I think here it wouldn't be. It didn't come over here. I think that's why. I think it's a very. I think it has a very much of a French sensibility. And you know what's interesting? See You Up There didn't do well in France. It was not a hit. This movie was it won Caesar Awards, but it wasn't big. And I think maybe because it's his most. This is a. The one thing I was worried about with this movie is it's clean. It ends clean. It this movie has a beginning, middle, and end, and then everyone sort of leaves, and there's a nice bow tied on it. So there's not too many themes to explore. I know that France lost a ton of people after World War One, over 1 million, and then when the soldiers came back, they weren't treated well. You have the government profiteering off this. You have people stealing from it. You have like the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. But then it ends really nicely and cleanly for the main guy. And so
Well, it
I was
does.
I was kind of wondering, how do we get into this? Like, how do, because the themes are there, everything's explored. The villain is a villain. The villain drowns, dies. The father and son make up. Spoilers, and then the son jumps off of it. You want to explain this movie to the audience, to MFF, in case people haven't listened to it. What's the plot? What's
So
like
the
the
plot
high
is
level
it's the
breakdown?
end of World War One. The armistice is about to happen. This commanding officer gets the note from his, from France that basically says, we're signing a truce, like Germany is like backing down, whatever, the war is over, don't fire. And so he's like, all right, that's not gonna work for me because I love war. Basically, this is the only place in the world that I seem to have purpose. Like I'm ascribing a little bit to that, but like he's like, this is where I belong. I'm good at this. We're not leaving. I want to keep fighting. And so he sends two of his men out. We eventually find out later that he shot both of them in the back by killing these two men who were also fellow French soldiers. France then, sends off this like artillery strike or whatever, and this like whole battle ensues, which leads to a bunch of needless brutality. Like there's a quote really early in the movie: "Dying last is even dumber than dying first."
Yeah.
And so our main character gets like almost buried alive in like this pit of dirt. He only survives by being able to breathe into a horse's mouth, like breathing the air that is inside the dead horse's body. He is rescued by this other guy who they seem to have like a kind of a friendship. There might be some kind of like underlying, potentially unsaid, unspoken gay romance, maybe, possibly between them, unclear. But in saving him, the guy who, not our main character, but the other guy, is hurt in the
Edward.
line of battle, blows off his lower jaw. Then the rest of the movie kind of becomes the main character and him starting this friendship, this bond, or continuing this friendship, this bond, but that back in, non-war area to just get him back on his feet, kind of. And he, like you were saying earlier, he has these like very elaborate, beautiful, ornate masks that he wears to hide his, well, I guess probably what he would, muffle through like the deformity or the injury. And it's the two of them and this little girl decide, hey, we were screwed over by the war and by war in general. We are going to scam people who want to honor the war by offering them these war memorials that we are going to collect the money up front and then never actually make. And then once we collect a lot of money, we're going to get out of France and just live off these riches forever. And then things sort of unfurl and unfold from there. And it all kind of comes back to the guy who had the jaw injury is his death is faked, so he doesn't have to go back home to his family. But then everything kind of winds back up in their life with his sister and his father and how that all unfolds. And it all does end up neatly, but also it kind of makes sense. Like it's a global story. I think it's also like a story of France and the entire war, but also just told through like the eyes of like one family, kind of, right? Like that's what it feels neat, but it also, if that's what he's going for, it works.
I mean, they had to find a way to knock down a 600-page book into a movie under 2 hours, and
Yep.
I think it works as it tells a full narrative in that place, and I think it does miss a few things, but it still works very much so as a movie. As it doesn't feel like fragmented, and I don't really know the source material, but if I hadn't known this came from a book, I probably would have not even felt like it did, and so it works, and it's very very vibrant. It's very alive. And you know what's interesting? Dupontel cites RoboCop as his main example for this movie.
which is wild.
He said he combines entertainment with sharp social commentary. It's an action movie, but behind the action movies, there's a lot, which is saying about American society. So he's making this film, but he's saying a lot more about French society while he's making it. But I love that this guy loves Terry Gilliam, Coen Brothers, and Paul Verhoeven. You can kind of feel that.
Yeah.
And he,
Um, I also realized in trying to like sum up what the movie was about, like it is straightforward. Like you're saying, it's the most straightforward or like the most like grounded, but like it's kind of complex. Like a lot goes on to like set up like where we are, the scam they are running. There's a lot
Mhm.
of like backstory that like as I was rewatching this time, I was, ooh, how do I say, like I think the second hour of this movie is better than the first hour of this movie because I was like, the first hour I was just like, is this really, did I like hallucinate? Like, I'm not really loving this, but I think the first hour really sets up everything to come together. And I think it does, again, unless you're like off put by the neatness of it, I think it comes together in a really nice way. But the first hour is just like, this is a lot of like table setting to get us where we need to go.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of it, and it ends. So the end of the film, I guess it starts off. He's in Morocco in 1920. He's arrested and he's explaining everything to a French, because it's still like, I guess still a French colony. He's explaining everything to a French policeman, and then he explains everything to him, lies about a few things. He's a bit of an unreliable narrator, but at the end, we learn that the guy interviewing the main character,
Hmm.
Maillard Albert, he's the dad of one of the guys who was murdered by evil Pradel,
Correct.
and then he just lets him go. But then there's a little girl named Louise who hangs out with our guy Edward all the
Hmm.
time. Like she even shows up in the morning in a bathrobe. She's there, and also Babylon AD's Melanie Thierry, Pauline is with him. She's we're not explaining this movie too well, but I do like that people from Brotherhood of the Wolf, Babylon AD are in this film. That makes me
Well, I will
happy.
say that the movie has the framing device. It feels like, even though the movie is not like it, of like Usual Suspects a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. And also, it reminded me of The Fall, of Tarsem's The Fall, where it's like a guy is telling a story to a little girl, but he's not telling a story to the little girl. He's telling a story of sort of a story about a little girl indirectly, but it like feels, maybe it's just because that's like old and European. I don't know, but it reminded me of both those movies. But it's like this the movie long. Let me tell you all the crimes that I've committed, and then in the end you're free to go because like I am talking to the one cop who like has a vested stake in this matter or whatever.
Coincidences play a massive part in
Yes.
his films. And
Oh,
if
in
you,
all of it. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
when you watch Bye Bye Morons, there's a tremendous amount of coincidences that happen. But I mean, people love him. So when he's been making movies for a long time and he's a very prolific actor, so I guess that works. But yeah, there's a tremendous, because the guy whose face is blown off, he has a sister. She marries the guy Pradel who ordered the attack on them, and he knows that Edward's not dead. And then Mellard ends up getting a job with
Right.
Edward's dad, and then he steals from him. There's just a tremendous amount of coincidences, but they do tie together nicely. And coincidences do keep the story running pretty tightly. I mean, it's under 2 hours. But yeah, I think it's, but okay. When you're watching a film, maybe like a Bye Bye Morons, one of the ladies is dying because she's just inhaled too much hairspray. Benedetta's dying because she inhaled too much hairspray. There's another guy who wants to commit suicide because he has nothing. He has absolutely nothing. This one, I think Edouard's a little bit of a cipher to me because he grew up incredibly wealthy. His dad was just stern. I guess he wasn't the best dad, but he's not beating him or anything. Instead of just hugs, he gives him cash. And so he becomes this artist who Dupontel says he loves because he rejects the father's values. He's a very pure artist. But then he gets his face blown off. He gets addicted to morphine, and then he adopts a young child whom they later buy from a woman. And then they just start scamming people. And then he just starts living a bougie life, hating on the like rich people of France, but then eventually he makes up with his dad and realizes that his dad loves him. So then he commits suicide. There's just not, we never, it's not just because he can't talk, but we don't get too much into this guy. So I never really felt any closeness whatsoever for Edouard in it.
Yeah,
Like the performance
the
is good,
movie
the
the
masks are
movie
good, but I could care less about him.
the movie basically says he clearly got what he wanted. He wanted his love of his father. Like you're good with that, right? Now he's going to kill himself. It's just like you don't really know that's his goal, to your point, until he
Exactly. Yeah.
kills himself, and you're like, oh, I guess that's all he wanted. But like, I think there's something that like if you're okay with that, like it's. I mean, very sad, but it's also like nice closure. But again, we don't know really what anybody wants. But so there's also like this is a bad comparison, but like it reminds me like I love the show Lost, and another show that I'm sort of a little bit worried to return to because I don't know that it's going to hold up to the esteem that I have in my brain. But there was a backlash by audience members or by people who are watching the show that said, "Why are we following these same like 10 characters around? I want to see who else is on the island." Like you have like 41 survivors. Why are we only following Jack and Charlie and Kate and whoever, right? And so they wrote the season 3 episode called Expose. And in Expose, they follow Nikki and Paolo, and there's
Right.
background characters who like are in they recreate memorable moments from the show from their perspective. Like it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And at the end of that episode, spoilers for Expose, a now 17-year-old TV episode, they are buried alive. They die
Yeah.
buried alive.
They just kill him off.
And people were like, "Oh, we don't want that. That was what was the point of that episode?" It's like, well, you wanted another perspective. And so I think like this is not exactly a direct comparison here, but in my head, it's like you can want ambitious storylines that don't necessarily wrap up neatly, or you can just be like, well, of course everybody knows each other because that's the only way the story is going to end up neatly. It's just like this kind of thing where it's like, I think you can be okay with this, or you can find it like trite and not like I think both sides of this, and again, it's a messy comparison. I don't know if this makes any sense at
I want a
all.
Cobra Kai episode like this now when one of the background Cobra Kai guys just watches all the insanity of what's going on for 6 seasons. Sorry, go ahead, Joey.
No, but
But
like,
you
does
got
that
something
make
for that.
does that make any sense at all? Where it's like you can either be like, well, who like the guy who's commissioning this statue is not his father, or his sister is not married to their commanding officer. It's just like another thing, but it's like that makes a messier story,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
necessarily one that is like,
You need to keep it tight.
because to your point, like to wrap this up in an hour 50, it's like, well, we really only need to worry about like 5 characters, and like yes, it's a very weird coincidence that they all know each other and are literally related to one another, but at the end of the day, it's telling a story. This is the story is telling. And unless you're like put off by that, I think it's fine.
No, you're right. I think the economy of storytelling, we don't have to have 14 other characters. And I occasionally say this. So I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense because I do complain sometimes about movies that just bring in way too many characters. You're watching a movie and it's just bogged down by too many characters. The what Fellowship, not Rings, the Rings of Power show on Amazon. There's way too many characters. So I think by, like you said, and also the book probably has this as well, but expanded much more in 600 pages. By keeping, yeah, the coincidences, keeping everyone tight, you still get the message across. And imagine this: if everyone was in different positions, you would have to do some big time narrative juggling.
Yes.
That would feel just as contrived. So I guess that's not my problem. That there are some coincidences. I was able to roll with that just because of the narrative economy of it all. But I just think, I really like Pradell, the villain. He doesn't overplay it. I like him a lot. He's a really good villain. There's a scene where he pulls up on this graveyard and he just starts running on gravestones because he doesn't want to get his shoes dirty. It's a wonderful visual.
Hmm.
And yeah, I like that he marries his sister. I like that the father's involved. I like that everyone gets into like coincidentally, Albert Maillard falls for Pauline, who works for the sister of Edouard, who is dead. Uh, but yeah, like you said, you don't have to expand the net, and you still can tell the same story.
And I do think that like if you're on board with all these movies' coincidences, you should not be off put by the fact that the guy he's been telling the entire story to is also directly connected to like one of the other 2 characters that matters in the movie. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh, this is also like very clean and very like easy to put a bow on, but it's also like, well, sure. I mean,
Because you
have
could
to
have
be
had,
somebody had to be that guy's father, right? It's just like why not be? Because like, are you happier if like at the end of this movie, Maillard goes to jail? Like you're not, right? Like, it's just
no,
like
yeah, he needs to
so.
go. He needs to go free. And also too, I guess if Albert Maillard he somehow introduces Pradell to Madeline, And then he randomly gets a job at Marcel's place, but then he learns that that guy is Edouard's dad. But then he accidentally introduces that. That's a lot more storytelling
Yes.
right there. Uh, but also, I think what's nice about this movie is, and there's maybe some things that just got lost in translation with us, because I was reading about French history after World War One because I wanted to have some context for it. And yeah, they said a lot of troops, so many men died in World War One that when they came back, they're just, it was such a like there's so many injured French people, and we see that scene. There's a lot of Frenchmen who are, Maillard. Okay, so Edward has his face blown off and he needs morphine. So Maillard goes up to other wounded soldiers who are trying to sell their morphine. And he beats them up and takes their morphine, and then he ends up getting beat up by them. But yeah, the country was in such a flux, and I think people profited so much from it because they opened up their borders for immigration. That's why, when they're the grave digging scenes, there's a lot of people from China digging the graves who can't speak French because the coffins are only 5 feet and they're maximizing space to make as much money as possible. People came back and just made money because of the chaos of the time. And I think that's what he's pointing towards. They're stealing from war profiteers. He even makes that point. He's in taking money from bigwigs who are cashing in on the rebuilding of France and profiteering from that. There is like people are making money from war memorials. I mean, it's just, well, no one's working. Like it's a really interesting concept that maybe gets lost in translation a little bit for us. So I think that's what I found the most. I think my favorite scene in the movie is when he goes and gets that inspector. So Edward and Miard and Luis, yeah, Luis. They find this guy who hasn't had a promotion in 20 years.
Because
They
he's either terrible at his job or a real pain in the
Which is
ass.
amazing. And
Hmm.
they tip him off about Perdel's scheme to make a ton of money from burying just random corpses in 5 foot coffins. This guy shows up, and there's a fun bit about dwarves and how bodies work like that in German artillery, how practical and great it is. That's a funny part. And I think that's where the movie shines a little bit, where he said, Dupontel said he wanted to make this an indictment of modern culture, but that's when you can feel the care that he brings to it. I think the script is at its sharpest when one of the other funny lines, he explains the what was the breath the hall of sighs. What is it? It's the he explains how
Oh, the
the
Bridge
bridge
of
of
Sighs?
sighs. So
Yeah.
he explains the bridge of sighs, how he steals money, and the cop in Morocco just goes, put him down for embezzlement. Like there's some really funny lines in here. And that's when I feel like Dupontel is at his strongest, when he is talking about those schemes and how people who profited from that. I don't know if you felt that or not,
Well, do
but
you think, like, going back to what you're saying before, that this did not do well in France, do you think it does not do well in France because it's like, hey, our country is actually seeded with all this like racism and like war profiteering and despicable behavior, and like even the heroes of this movie are war profiteers and scam artists and stuff, and like they're going up against people who are even worse than they are, but like no one in this movie like makes France look good.
yeah. It doesn't, but also I don't think it has a really witty or darkly comedic way of saying that. Like Bye Bye Morons is much more insane with its plotting. I think it's just he has stuff to say, but it doesn't feel like dredged by anger, or it's not overly funny and it's not overly un PC like Bye Bye Morons is, or Bernie, or the other movies he makes are very un PC. So I think this one might be his most politically correct. That's a non-inflammatory
I'm just trying to think of like,
film.
are there, and I'm sure there are, and I'm sure that like I'm gonna ask this question, you're gonna have like, oh well, here's like 45 examples, you idiot. But like, are there American movies that really show how terrible, like, I guess like every movie about Vietnam is just like, well, we really screwed up
Yeah,
Vietnam,
that
right? Like
sucked.
it's,
Platoon.
but like no one really makes us like, oh, like we really screwed up World War II. Like Oppenheimer does, but like that's not about the soldiers. This is like, no, the soldiers are like, we should not really respect the soldiers. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind, like the soldiers are also, but it's also the system that failed them. Like, I'm just trying
Yeah,
to figure out like why a movie that is ostensibly about your country's history and like, a war that you won, that is beautifully shot and like tells a nice story and like whatever, doesn't do, I mean, who knows? Movies don't do well for any number of reasons, right? But I'm just trying to like, if that all contributes to a thing.
I mean, it's got to. I'm trying to think of American cinema. I mean, the Hays Code prevented so much. It wasn't until what, the late 60s, when it was influenced by Breathless, where we got the Deer Hunter and we got Taxi Driver, where we started to see the seedy side of America. You think about the men who came back from World War II with PTSD and were told to just brush it off,
Right.
and just rub some dirt on it. You don't really have a lot of those types of films, and so I mean, 12 Years a Slave came out. That was a success. That one, Best Picture.
But that's also a movie that was made by a British man.
British
Right?
guy,
Like
and a lot of
that's a
British
guy
actors.
that's not America
Yeah, that's
looking back and
true.
being like, we really messed this up.
It
It's
was a
like
British. It was a
the
British
British
guy.
guy's like, you guys really messed this up.
Thanks, Edgefor. We did. And Cumberbatch. I think the worst part about that movie is Cumberbatch's American accent. But well, no, wait, no, he had just come over. Never mind his accent. But I think I don't know why this movie did not do well. I don't. There's no reason for it. I looked it up. It won a ton of awards, but it just feels. Do you think it feels kind of awards baity? I don't think it. There's nothing edgy about it. I watched this beautiful movie by Quentin Dupontel, The Mandibles. It's one of the dumbest, funniest films I've ever seen in my life. It's about these two idiots who adopt this giant fly, and they're the biggest doofuses you'd ever met. So I think there's this sharp dose of humor injected. This one's very Amelie, but there's no big love story in it. There's no sweeping romance in it. There's no hyper violence. There's some nudity. The villain isn't.
Like very startling nudity. We're like
Yeah.
out of nowhere, it's just like, oh, here's boobs. It's like, okay.
The reason I thought those two scenes happened was because maybe the general was looking at himself in the mirror, and so when they in that reflection, because there's a scene when he walks up to a mirror in the film and goes, "Hello there." So I was wondering if he's watching himself while he's making love to the wives
I
of
mean,
his
maybe, but you could
coworkers.
also like have them in like a shirt or a bra.
Yeah,
It feels
that wasn't necessary.
like again, I'm not trying to be like prude here or like be like, oh my God, I didn't like seeing those like
It's
beautiful women
gratuitous.
naked, but it's also like it doesn't fit the rest of the movie.
No,
Um,
I don't think, I'm trying to listen to him explain this film, and I get a decent amount of whenever he tries to explain it. I know he said he wanted it to be an indictment of French culture and he
mhm.
wanted it to be this, but he also has some long-winded explanations of it. And I think when I listen to Todd Phillips talk about Joker Folie à Deux, he doesn't know how to explain the movie. He goes, "Oh, it's a little bit of this. It's not a musical. It's that." Like, he doesn't even know what the core of his movie was, and neither of them did too well. And so I think this one, it's a hard movie to explain. The guy who gets his face blown off and swindles many innocent people has closure at the end, but we never know the father and the son too much. We just see a flashback. The guy who's in charge of all the corporate world, like, he can make one phone call and get a villain off, which he does in the film. He seems like a good dude at the end because he makes up with his son. So I don't know what it's trying to say in regards to, yeah, a lot of people profiteered off of post-war France, but then the main guy has a redemptive arc. The guy who beat up troops for their morphine and swindled a lot of people of their money quite joyously gets off scot-free with a love interest and I guess a daughter. And then so it's, and also the grunting, the one character grunts and the one child can hear it, but they never explain why. It's just a movie where I think it's a big stew that doesn't it's interesting how they kept it below 2 hours, but it's still not a easy to explain or follow plot.
I know that you described a lot of his themes earlier. I'm just trying to like make sense of like because
Would you want
I think there's a lot of things that we are talking about that you are saying that doesn't make me think about the movie in a different way, but makes me wonder like normally I guess I should do this more often, but like normally I don't think about like what's the director trying to say because I feel like especially with like American movies, either there's nothing they're trying to say or like it's more obvious. Like I don't know. My question is that I will hopefully maybe get to an answer. Does this guy seem to like France? I mean, I know that he likes operating in France because he's able to control his films, but like, does he feel, for lack of a better word, patriotic?
I mean, he makes fun of the bureaucracy of the country. So okay, so here's what he likes. I looked through all of his films and I put together a list because I was just really curious. He likes a lot of human like alienation and suffering. So a lot of his characters are loners who grow up on their own, or they're just, there's a lot of emotional and psychological struggles of his characters, or they're outcasts, or they're grappling with their sense of identity. They don't know who they are. There's a lot of existential struggles. There's also a lot of social criticism. He constantly goes against societal norms in his movies. He feels like there's oppressive systems. He's very much, I also think he's deeply influenced by Python, and if you think about Terry Gilliam with his views of bureaucracy
Sure.
and corporate greed, and if you look at 12 Monkeys, all the social
Hmm.
inequality of his films, the people are living in cages. So I think he's deeply influenced by Terry Gilliam, because I think he's deeply influenced by the films of the 90s that came out, and which he talks about, like that in the late 70s. And so I think he's really influenced, like fantastical but bureaucracy sucks
I
type
mean, do
stuff.
you see RoboCop in this movie though? Like, do you think that like he knows what he's talking about? Like, I know that he knows what he's talking about, but like when he describes what influences him, you're like, oh, I get that. Like, even because you did much more research on him and his other movies, and you watch other movies that I have not yet seen, but like, does it feel like you are able to tell? Oh, I actually do see RoboCop in this movie.
No, and not in this one. I think there's more so in his other
Okay,
films.
RoboCop or just other influences that are like that?
Well, I mean, if you think about RoboCop, just that movie's insane because they just want to invent a
Right.
different cop to clean up a thing, to make to clean up an area to make it more profitable. And you have a guy named what, Mr. Big in the movie. What's his name? The villain is, let's see. Oh, the old man. Sorry about that. I should have known that. I just talked about that with Norbert. But you have the old man. He gets off scot free. I think it. I think it plays with the hyper violence so hard, and it. I don't think anybody can blend what Paul Verhoeven does, where he can make a movie for people who want to watch it with their lizard brain, but he can also make a movie for cinephiles. This is not a. I think See You Up There is not a movie you watch with your lizard brain. I think you go to watch it to analyze it and think about it, and understand what he's trying to say. So I don't think he can match Verhoeven by any regards, because Verhoeven's a master. But no, I don't see any RoboCop in See You Up There. Uh,
Wait, have you seen the movie Elle? Speaking of
oh,
Verhoeven, speaking
L's
of French.
incredible. We have
Okay.
that's like one of I recorded that Johnny Numb. We have the Feel Good series, and that's a movie we covered on the show. So I love L. Yeah,
I just thought that Isabelle Huppert is a video game and
yeah.
like designer. It's like that's such a weird job to base a movie around because like the movie is not about that. It's just like, but also kind of I don't know.
I love that movie. She's great in that film. Should have won the
That's another
Oscar.
movie that I saw at Fantastic Fest.
Oh, she rocks. But and also too, I just want to say he. I think he also goes big on connection with humans as well. So we as humans need to connect with each other. You'll see that a lot. But yeah, I don't know, if watch Infested, the characters are saying, "Hey, we live in the suburbs. We're not even looked at here." Under Paris, they're making fun of the government. I think a lot of these French horror films or French cinema have something to say about the country. I mean, Happening's all about the abortion laws out there. So I think there's a lot of critique of French government in cinema. So I don't think he's alone in it.
Okay.
I
So
don't
that so
think.
that's not why the movie did not do well. It didn't connect for other reasons, or maybe it didn't get distribution. Like,
But I mean, if you think about this film, there's no standout sequence. There's no characters. As much as time as we spend with Dupontel's Maillard, we don't know him,
no.
and we don't know him. We don't know his relationship with Pauline. Pradel is fine, but there's just not, and it ends so cleanly. I don't want to spoil the ending of Bye Bye Morons, but it ends on a thing that you leave going, oh dang. So I think this is just a film that's quite safe. There's nothing hip about it. It doesn't have much to say other than, I mean, everyone knows, not everyone, but people know that post-war in a lot of areas, people take advantage of that. And it's war sucks, generals suck, bureaucracies suck, and but we never get a great look into the characters themselves. So I just, for me, I enjoyed watching this because I got to learn more about Albert Dupontel, but I'm not quite sure what it wants to be. And I don't think he does either. And I think that's, audiences can sense that sometimes.
I almost wish that like it feels like there is a different kind of movie in here where it's like masks and theater and theatrical and like performance and like so much of performance is like just to the group of three. It's like internal
Yeah.
and I wonder if in the book, maybe, or in a longer version of the movie, there's like one where like they're making like there's something like really exciting about the scene we mentioned before where they find the guy who like the inspector, where they all go into the world. Like he goes into the world for the first time, like fully dressed in that like, that female mask with like the hair down to his feet and like like it just like goes out. And it feels like for the rest of the movie, he's just like trapped in this room, like by his own design until he moves out to the hotel and then eventually, sort of reconciles with his dad and kills himself. But like it feels like there's maybe more of a like I wonder if that's the kind of movie that he wanted to make where it's like because the masks are so cool and beautiful to look at, and then be like, well, they're just like watch he's just wearing them in the scene. But like it's not really like it feels like he's wearing them for us because the girl doesn't seem like she would care. The girl like looks at his face, right? And like
Hmm.
Maillard has seen his face. It just feels like he's wearing it for the audience. I don't know.
I think they might have blown their budget on that first war scene. And her name's Cecile Kretschmar, who did the masks. They're pretty gorgeous. I just want to put that out there. But yeah, I think you have to lock yourself in one location because he funds a lot of his own films. He says he's never asked for government help. So I think you blow the budget on the war films, very passive glory esque, and then you stock it up in one place, limit the locations, and you can make a film. So it's a case of did they need to spend all that money on that? Could they have been more theatrical? Could I don't know. I love when they're talking about abstract art in this when they explain that, and the I just think it's quite unfocused. I really do. I think sometimes you watch a movie and you enjoy it, but then you wonder should they have tried to adapt this 600-page book into a less than 2 hour sub 2 hour movie, and it's because something will get lost in translation. I think things did. So it's even though it did well, critics like it's scored really well, it won a bunch of Caesars. I just don't think it crossed over because it's not like, if you think about Amelie, that's such a distinct visually film, and the plot is such a rom-com plot that still follows a lot of the tropes of the rom-com genre. So that's why it made so much money worldwide because people knew exactly what was going on despite it being in French. I think this one you don't really know what's going on. You don't know why it's going on. You don't know really who these characters are, or how he learned to make these masks, or why this kid knows how he can grunt, understand his grunts. It's a bit of a mess, but it looks gorgeous.
Did you like this movie or Bye Bye Morons more?
I think Bye Bye Morons has more to talk about. The
Okay.
one thing I worry about is when you watch a movie and it leaves not a lot of room for conversation because it's very explained. And so
like this.
yeah, this one has
Yeah.
a very neat conclusion. And so we're not and it's won award. So the problem is it didn't do well in theaters, but it's generally liked by critics and it won a bunch of awards. So it's not an underseen gem. It's not a misunderstood film. It's there aren't too many themes to fully flesh out because they are fleshed out for us and then it ends neatly. So it's kind of tough to talk about because it's all there.
Yeah, it's like a beautiful movie, but it's like after you say like it's a beautiful movie, like I don't know what else there is kind of to say about it.
Yeah, that's why I did so much research
Like what
because
what what annoys me about Too Fast is that Joe and I have come to terms with the fact that like the movies that give us the most discussion are like 2.5 star movies. It's just like it's not bad, it's not good. There's like stuff that you can really pick apart. You can see what you're trying to go for, but doesn't actually hit. Like there's a lot but here it's just like, yeah, it's good.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. There's nothing too bad about it. It's tied nicely together. When we talked about Rad, we had a great time talking about that because it has so much personality to
yeah,
it. And yeah, these are kind of the difficult movies to talk about. I had a series on MFF where we were talking about movies that were just generally good, and they're really hard to talk about
yeah,
because you're like, yeah, guys, this is good. They're like, well, critics liked it, and it's being reappraised, and not a lot to talk about there. But the one thing is cool. I mean, this is an episode we're doing on MFF, and I dig it. So people know about Albert Dupontel. They'll learn about French cinema. I name dropped a shitload of French films earlier, so hopefully people pick something from that. And it's a genre worth exploring. So I'm happy we covered this. This is like I said, I love the research for this because I learned a lot. But I researched more about his career and less about this movie because there's not much to dig into in this. So that's not a knock
yeah.
on it.
I wonder if in that list of movies that I sent you, how many are like this, where it's not like a movie that we would not have a great discussion about, or not, not that this was not a great, whatever, but like a movie that I put on there because I saw once close to 10 years ago that I loved and want to revisit, but I'm also sort of scared to.
There's enough on there that's great though. I mean, we got to talk about Columbus. which is an awesome film, and
Um,
a lot of good themes in that, and a lot of interesting talk about the way it was made. I just see a lot of Gilliam in this film.
there's three movies in a row on that list. Here's movies that I will recommend that people watch, but maybe we don't necessarily talk about. Although maybe we talked about one already. Did we talk about Lies of the Fox Fairy?
No,
So Lies
we
of the
have not.
Fox Fairy, See You Up There, and The Brand New Testament are three movies, all foreign language films, that I saw at Fantastic Fest that I've seen Lies of the Fox Fairy again since. It dulled a little bit, but I still really like it. The Brand New Testament I've only seen once. But those are three movies in a row on the list that I sent you where it's just like, I saw these movies once a long time ago. I loved them then. But like, I don't know that there's a lot to. I mean, the Brand New Testament is insane. But I would say that if you see this movie, if you listen to, I don't know if people, it always surprises me on Too Fast when people are like, "Oh, I watch along." It's like, what? Really? Okay. I don't know if people like watch along with this because it's not like there's like a rhythm, like you just sort of like whatever you want to talk about, which I think is super cool. Like that's the way that people should do it. Watch what you want to watch, talk about what you want to talk about. But like if people either watch this before they listen or watch it after we talked, if you like the vibe of it and sort of something that's like a little bit out there, international, whatever, the Brand New Testament from 2015 and Lies of the Fox Fairy also from 2015 I recommend. I don't think we should necessarily do on here as episodes, but I think they scratch a sort of itch where it's like a thing or a director or a whatever that I've never. I don't know. The Brand New Testament was also done by it was made by Jaco van Dormel, I think, the guy who did Mr. Nobody, which I've not seen. That Jared Leto movie that apparently is
Oh
really,
yeah,
really
yeah.
good. I have not seen that yet. But like they exist in this to me sort of space where it's like international darling at a film festival that I loved in that specific context. Does it hold up outside? I don't know.
Well, you do have Serenity 2019.
Oh, I love Serenity though. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about the Book of Henry. I'll talk about anything.
I mean, there's a lot to chew on with Serenity. I mean, the main character's name is Baker Dill.
I mean, Kendall Roy, Jeremy Strong plays the rules. So my favorite thing about the series that we do is figuring out which of these movies you want to cover next.
Yeah, we'll I'll
Although
look through the.
I think we wound up here because I think I picked this one,
Yeah. You know,
which I can't do anymore.
I keep going back to the Under the Silver Lake episode because I had such a tough time talking about that because that's another movie where there's so much research out there about there and everything kind of gets explained by the end. And so you're just sort of the most interesting thing of that is how poor guy was put in movie prison for years for making an $8 million movie. Like that blows my mind. I mean, directors have made $80 million movies that have flopped 100 times worse, and they're in movie jail far less. So that was interesting for me. So I'm gonna have to look through. I mean, I mean, I might just let you pick another one. I don't care. I'm down.
No, man, the whole point of the list is that I picked the entire list, and you have to pick from it.
Okay. All right. So, oh, you picked Megan 2022.
The bitch
Everybody
is
wants
back.
everybody wants some is amazing, but I would just talk about why it's amazing for hours.
Well, yeah, I know. So okay, I know that you have an incredible backlog of episodes that you've recorded. Everybody wants some. I watch every year the night before I leave for my fantasy baseball draft weekend while doing fantasy baseball draft prep. I put Everybody Wants Some on and I just draft or I like research who I want to draft while watching the perfect hangout movie.
It's a perfect hangout movie, and we've covered it. It's wait, what's Miracle Mile? All right, so
Miracle
I'll have to.
Mile is a movie that we did on the Patreon for Too Fast. Don't research anything about Miracle Mile. Miracle Mile is an amazing movie.
We'll have to talk about.
Yeah, it's one that Joe has now watched twice. After I saw it, because my friend Bob told me about it, and I said, Joe, watch this movie. Don't research it. Just watch it.
So I mean, all right. So I'm gonna pitch to you. You're next, just because I love it and I have the steel book, and I feel like I should talk about it.
Oh, I just got a beautiful 4K version of that I've not opened up yet. Okay, keep going. You're
Okay,
next.
you're next. Miracle Mile. Oh man, Grindhouse is good. Jupiter Ascending is so much. Okay, so let's do. Man, I love Wild Rose. Okay,
I don't
Miracle.
know that I have a lot to say about Wild Rose. It's just like I
No, it's
want to
just
watch that
great.
movie again. That song is wonderful. Mary Steenburgen, that like with since her accident, hearing the music in her head is crazy.
Okay, so Miracle Mile
Yep.
or You're Next.
I'm gonna pick your next just because Miracle Mile I talked about with Joe like a year ago. I will do Miracle Mile with you just a little bit
Next year.
further out. Yeah.
I like that.
But your
All right,
next is great.
because that's a movie I didn't like when I first watched it, and
What, your next?
now I love it beyond love.
There was, and I don't remember what the other ones were. I could try to find it, but like in theaters in 2013 when that movie came out. I don't remember if it was A24 or if it was like, because I don't think Your Next is A24, but there was a giveaway where it was like, if you see these four movies in theaters, these four independently distributed movies, we will give you like really cool swag. But it was like You're Next and like Drinking Buddies. Like it was just like four really good movies that I could not get to because like where I was in New
Yeah,
Jersey, like it just
some
didn't.
mumblecore films.
But I was like, this is so cool. Like it was just like four. It might not even been the same distributor. It might have just been like independent like directors who like each other's work or whatever, who wanted to like champion each other. Like, hey, we're four small movies that we want to rise up together. But like, yeah, man, Your Next is great.
Because I want to talk about my relationship with it. I think Aaron's incredible. There's a kitchen fight. We can give it Michelin stars, and then we can see if it's Michelin star worthy. I'll give you criteria for that. There's just so much to chew on, and it's so funny. It's a movie that took me a while to love, and now I adore. So I'm very excited. That's a good one. But
Well,
I know that we talked all around this movie, and we didn't talk too much about the movie. But I'm glad we did that. I like exploring stuff. I feel like the movies you pick, we always have a good time exploring them or the themes around them. And I enjoy that. It's such a different look for MFF, and I love it. And I learned a lot.
I'm glad. I always like being on here. And I also like, I was gonna say you might not love every one of these movies, but I think that they are all good. That's not necessarily true. Like, I don't know that Serenity is good, but I love it.
I could talk about McConaughey all the time. And so, I wrote about him for Rotten Tomatoes, but I can't listen to this. So I'm working on a book, and I'm starting with the first chapter's Reign of Fire. It's a book where I write about characters being eaten by monsters. And I talked about, what did I talk about? Okay, so there's three levels of McConaughey movies. So there's the McConaissance, and then the middle part I call it mid Conaughey,
Hmm.
and then I call it the McConaughey day in the beginning. So we can I feel like, I don't know. I just thought that was funny, Joey. So
It is
there's,
good.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like it.
that's a bit. But hey, where can people find you?
Every Tuesday, Too Fast, Too Forever. Go to cageclub.me/Joey for links to everything and all the shows. But the big one right now is Too Fast, Too Forever every Tuesday. Then every other Thursday, if you like books, if you read books, How to Win the Lottery podcast. Every other Thursday, we put out a new episode about a book. So it's daunting and overwhelming, but there's lots.
And you and I have, and if you like this episode, make sure to go back and listen to our other episodes, which I have a list.
Ooh,
Because you and I, we have Columbus,
yep,
Under the Silver Lake, See
yep,
You Up There,
yep,
Shithouse,
yep,
After Hours,
yep,
Spring Breakers.
yep.
Happy Death Day will be up by then. So yeah, we have some good episodes
The Spring Breakers one, I don't even like. I remember talking about it, but it was like that was
years
when I
ago.
was tagging this on Letterbox with my like movies, films, and flicks. Because I just like when I watch a movie for a podcast, I like tag it with like what I watch it for, and I'm just like, how many have I done? Like three, and it was like seven. I was just like, what?
Yeah,
Crazy, but I love it.
dude. Have a good night, man. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. So for me, Mark Hoffman, for Joey Lewandowski, some of your Sons of Flicks. We'll see you next week.